Morning, Stav here, and this is my Volvo 940 Turbo. I've owned this car for exactly 1 year today, 365 days. And has it been worth it? No. Do I regret it? Fuck yes. It has been a nightmare. And not only a nightmare for the usual reasons, but a nightmare because I swear, and everyone says it, this thing is fucking cursed. It's ridiculous. Basically, I bought this a year ago as a cheap, ready-done drift car. All I wanted to do is change the bucket seats from the dog shit Cobra Monacos that was in it to some decent ones, and weld the diff because an open diff had been put in it because the last one failed. Apart from that, it looked great, apart from the stickers, which again I removed. It had a good spec, it was good to go, decent price, but all wasn't what it seemed. It's not like the previous owner tried to bodge it or lie or anything. He's a sound lad and he loved this thing, but he was more eager and keen to do the car than he was making it as right as it seemed like it should be. So I probably spent, I don't know, about 5-6 months chasing every single electrical and fueling problem and boost problem there was known to man. No joke, fucking tons of stuff. Not helped by the usual plethora of absolutely completely wrong advice from the owners club people, but that's cars for you. Thankfully though, there was 2 people in the Volvo red block tuning world, which is Martin Leaf, who owns Viking Fabrications, and Martin Smith, who supplies custom chips and remaps and whatever for these cars. Their advice, thankfully, and their help was bloody good. Your mechanical problems went wrong, no big deal. Clutch went in the end for abuse. Turbo went in the end, abuse. Gearbox went in the end, and that was not my fault. The clutch slave cylinder just randomly popped out, which made me crunch third gear, because I was on a hard charge when it happened. Crunch third gear, knackered it. Making it worse than that, it's just a random shit, it always happens to it. I reckon over half a dozen times now, either the bumpers or something have either fell off while driving at like 10 miles an hour, or it locked up and parked up for the night somewhere. Like, they're secured better than a lot of drift cars and stuff I've owned, which have never had problems like that. But this, I'll just be driving down the road and I think, fuck it, I'll chuck the bumper on the floor. Even the last time I drove this, I was driving down in heavy traffic, 5 miles an hour, front splitter falls off. It's like, what the fuck? So yeah, this car, potentially great, reality, fucking nightmare. It's fast, don't get me wrong. I've timed it when it had valve flow issues, and didn't even make 300 brake on the dyno. It made about 290 and 305 pound-foot, but it had valve flow issues, so power was dropping massively above about 5 grand, less than that even. And even then, I timed it with Race Logic timing gear, and it was quicker than an E46 M3 or an E39 M5. It's rapid. Now I've put it double valve springs and so on, and it's way faster. I want to time it again as soon as it's dry. It's been raining out there now, so unless it dries later, I can't time it today, but we'll see. But yeah, it's fucking fast. It weighs bugger all. It don't actually owe me much. I reckon, not including buying it, I've probably only spent another grand on it, maybe 1,500 quid tops. Nothing. But it's time it's taken. If I was paying myself labour, I'd probably be 20 grand labour into this at the moment. It's ridiculous. Nightmare. But yeah, I mean, once I'm done with this, once I've done everything I wanted to with this, which isn't much left now, I would have kept it, but it's been such a fucking cursed car. I'm probably going to break it for bits, because it's worth a lot in bits, and I want to keep a lot of it, because I'm going to put it in the MX-5 and a few other cars that I got. So it's not going to go to waste, but it ain't going to live much longer. It's took all the will in the world so far to not just set fire to it about 100 times already. Really, it's just the most fucking cursed nightmare of a car going. And it's probably why you should be very, very careful when you buy pre-modified cars. I normally am, but the previous owner did love this thing. The spec ticked all the boxes. It was just not done very well. And I mean, I've done loads of stuff to it. It's cool as fuck now. It runs 30 psi boost reliably on pump fuel. It uses no oil, even though it's a 250,000 odd mile stock bottom end, 2 litre. I made my own, it's running standard engine management, but great AFRs and so on. I'm running a homemade anti-lag system, big bangs and flames and whatever. And I don't mean like rev limiter or launch control, I mean proper rally anti-lag off throttle. Nice lightweight Japanese wheels, nice skirts, you know, it's a cool looking car. But it's just a fucking nightmare, and I regret ever owning it, ever. It's put all my projects back at least 6 months by the time this is taken. Even filming this has taken me over an hour longer than I should, because every time I've looked at the footage, it's been corrupt. That never happens. But because I'm sitting on the roof of this talking about it, it's like it's cursing me some more and fucking the footage up. This time, if it's not worked, I'm gonna quit and just put subtitles along with this talking or something, because this is a fucking joke. Let's go do some shit. I thought I had an exhaust leak this morning, and this is one of the reasons it's in here. And yeah, I have. I thought it was blowing from around the V-band, so I thought, oh, the V-band's come loose. No, the V-band is still firmly attached to the turbo. Unfortunately, the exhaust isn't firmly attached to the V-band, because it was clearly welded by a blind monkey. This is before I owned it, and it's basically snapped clean off. So the V-band is broken off at the weld. So yeah, shit exhaust. So I now got to take off the downpipe and re-weld it. Bollocks. The Volvo exhaust is now missing because it's on the floor. Turns out the blow was that. The manifold, the V-band, was pretty much just spot welded with zero penetration to the downpipe. It is the worst downpipe in the world, as you can see. This is what you get when you buy pre-modified cars, and this is why I generally try and avoid it. So I'm going to clean this up now, and well, Thomas is going to TIG it on for me, thankfully, which feels ridiculous TIGging such a piece of shit, but you know, it's quick frames. So there you go. Well, I've prepped it for welding, and I've ground off some of the worst of the inner crap, so there'll be nothing overlapping anymore, so it won't be as shit as it was. And yeah, and it's just for Thomas's TIGging magic now. If you ever wanted a perfect example of why this car is cursed, well, it's a mixture of curse and bodges by the previous owner. It's not even deliberate bodges, just, you know, doing things wrong because the enthusiasm was beyond, you know, the enthusiasm was far more than the ability. It's what's happened here. Basically, I noticed this a while ago, and it's been a problem, but not as much a problem as what's happened now, which is, let me move the light. The actual coilover seat thing on the chassis bent, because the coilover is now, the spring is sat on top of it, well, underneath it, you know, they're sitting on each other. It should be inside each other. Basically, it had these limiting straps fitted to both sides, a bit of old seat belt by the looks of it, and that was to stop the suspension drooping down so much so the springs could never pop out of the seats, as in the coilover, you know, the springs couldn't pop out of the coilover seat things, adjustable platforms, whatever you want to bloody call them. But while this one was done correctly on that side, so there's never been a problem, this one is about an inch or so too long. You measure the difference and it's too long. And it's not as if this has ever been just refitted an inch different, because there's only one hole in it. It is in the original hole that they made, and it's just an inch too long, so it allowed it to pop out. And I've had this issue before, but it's done this driving here basically, and now look at it, it's fucking all over the shop. So I'm gonna have to unbolt, probably unbolt the whole thing down there, straighten that out, and yeah, do it properly. But it's like, for fuck's sake, it's ridiculous. I don't remember if I mentioned it on the intro video, but the ECU even failed the other day. Luckily I had a spare one, so you know, but the problems didn't even indicate it was an ECU fault. It was just I happened to have a spare, so I swapped it all over and job done. But I dread to think the amount of time and money someone else would have took to diagnose it, because the problems didn't point to the ECU, but I did it anyway, and luckily it fucking was. But yeah, this car is just one random weird fucking problem after the next, and there's another one. So I reckon if I unbolt it from the bottom, this limiting strap shit, make it about an inch shorter, fix this junk, which is fucked at the moment, we should be okay. There you go. Absolutely bent as fuck. Spring platform in all its glory. Looks like it's damaged that handbrake line a bit as well, but that's for the hydro, so I don't really give a shit. It isn't leaking. As you might imagine, these spring platforms are jammed fucking solid, so there's no adjusting it. But I can bend it straight and put that about an inch shorter, and it should be okay after that. Fucking thing. Absolute AIDS. Well, that was way more grief than it had any right to be. But I've re-drilled that. It's in the right place. Spring is now seated correctly. Hopefully, the car should now go back to handling like it used to. And hopefully, no more problems when it's jacked up, it pops out and causes this shit. Although, to be honest, this problem, I think, has only, if I remember right, has only happened once when jacked up, and it's popped out just with hard driving over, like, you know, bumps and jumps nearly every other fucking time. So yeah, but I think it's done. So yeah, I don't know what's going to go wrong next, but yeah, that's one bit done. The car now looks level, which is more than I could say for what it'll ever look like before. Beforehand, even standing here, you could physically see it was on the piss to one side. That side was about, well, it looked like at least an inch higher than that side. Never measured it, but let's do it now. That is just over 2 foot, 61.5 centimeters. This side, just over 2 foot, 61.5 centimeters. Bloody hell. That's probably the first time this car's ever been, you know, not on the piss for a very long time. Piece of shit. So, does that mean it handles good now? It used to, so maybe it does. I can finally test what I've wanted to test on this car for, I don't know, a couple of months. I want to test adjusting the cam timing. I want to go 4 degrees retarded, which one of the guys, one of the Scandinavian guys told me is very good on one of these V cams. At the moment you can see us at 0. I'm going to go back 4 degrees, see what that does. May or may not do any good, I don't know. And I'll show you what else I've got.
Obviously I've not tried this car, I've not tested this car as such, timed it, since we done the valve springs, and I am 99.9% sure it's a lot quicker now, but it might just be in my mind. Obviously I want to re-dyno it now the valve springs are done, to see if it has cured that problem that's shown on the dyno. But I also want to test these changes on the road and see which one of these things is better, or if any of them, and test that as well. Like, so I show you, I have got nothing much. Obviously the cam timing is one thing. This is a different ignition chip from Martin Smith. He can basically custom map Volvo ECUs really well, the standard ones, and really knows what he's doing. And I mean, his own Volvo, I don't think it's on standard management, but his own one is making over 500 brake, or nearly 500 brake. I think it was making 475, and now it's best part of 550. I can't remember now, but it's a bloody weapon, and it's a road car, just, you know. But yeah, he's a top bloke and knows what he's doing. And one thing that occurred to me a while ago was, I've still got the ignition chip in this that came with the car, and it's not standard, but I ain't got a clue what it is. And I'm wondering if it's far too retarded for the lower compression. Obviously this has got much lower compression than standard, so, you know, it might not need anywhere near as much retard for boost. And the thing is, and this is what a lot of people don't get, you gain a lot more power from ignition timing and boost than you do from compression. Obviously with higher compression you have to retard the timing more and not run as much boost, or a mix of both. With lower compression you can run whatever amount of boost with more ignition without a problem, and that always gives way more power than the other way around. So it's entirely possible that I'm leaving a lot on the table because that's configured for, well, it could either be crap or it could just be for much higher compression. This one, trust this one a lot more than the one in there. The one in there could be fucking terrible, whereas Martin's clever, so even if it could do with more ignition, this is more likely to be a much better ignition map anyway. So I'm going to try this compared to the standard one, see how it goes. And finally, and yeah, this is probably a bit stupid, but not stupid, but maybe dangerous for the life of the engine, but I'm going to try it anyway. Because my compression's like 7.5 to 1 now, rather than 8.5 standard, I got hold of this, which is a completely standard 2-litre turbo ignition ECU. So obviously the standard ignition settings, which generally is way too advanced for a car running a lot of boost, but they're running it on you know, standard compression. This actually might suit, you know, the compression and the boost I'm running really well. It might just dead its tits off and wreck the engine, but I sort of don't care, so I want to try it. I mean, hopefully the knock sensor and all that should take care of it if it does have any issues, but I'd really be interested to see the difference between what's in it completely standard and Martin's one, which is almost certainly the best setup. So we will see. And obviously the cam timing as well, which may well make a massive difference, because all of this I need to kind of learn, well, the cam timing especially, because obviously I've got the MX-5 with, you know, similar engine going in, so I want to see what I can find out. So yeah, that's where we are. I'm going to sort out a few minor issues with this car now, and then later on today, this evening or something, I will strap on the timing gear. Well, to be honest, it's already in there, and we'll go for a little drive to Mexico and do some comparison runs and see what we find out. a shame it's such a nightmare because it looks pretty badass, I think. Well, today, while again it's taken way longer than I planned, I've spent the day sorting out the various Volvo problems. So the rear suspension, as you know. I've also sorted out the front lip and stuff, which was held on badly. Because of my complete lack of faith in that, even though the skirts have never ever fell off, I have added a few more fixing points to stop them falling off, in case they do. I don't know if they ever would, but considering everything else on this bastard car's fell apart, you know, I'm not taking that risk. And I also adjusted the exhaust again. When I say adjusted, I mean hammered the absolute shit out of the floor pan even more, because it was just vibrating really bad on it. Like, fine driving normally, but once you're on sort of above about 4,000 RPM, you could hardly hear the exhaust for it vibrating against the car. So all you could hear was brrr as it vibrated. It sounded like shit. And honestly, if I didn't know this thing's cursed and will just have loads more random problems that it's never had before and I could never predict, this car is technically absolutely bang on and good to go. There shouldn't be any problems with it now. Do I believe this is the end of the problems and I can just drive it and enjoy it? No. I've thought that about 10 times at least since I've owned this bloody thing, and it's never happened, and I can't see it starting today. But you never know. In all honesty, I'm kind of running out of things that could go wrong. Something probably will. But yeah, it's pretty good. I still need to test those extra improvements that I've made, as in performance test them. The cam timing and the new chip from Martin Smith for the ignition. But a mix of the car playing up and now the weather being shite has kind of put paid to that still. Hopefully sometime this week, if it's dry sometime this week. Tonight I've not looked outside the door in the last couple hours, and I'm pretty sure it's not rained since because I've not heard it, but I can't imagine the ground will have dried because it's not exactly warm at the moment, so I'm pretty sure I won't be timing it tonight. But that don't mean I can't go and test it. So hopefully the next load of footage you see is going to be this in action.